Hello, everybody. Welcome to Conventional Wisdom Sucks. I'm Ann Riley, and I'm really happy to be here today. Today, we're going to talk about our first real societal issue. And it goes like this. Conventional wisdom says that big government is bad. So, this is an attitude that's held by many people. Ronald Reagan famously said, "Government is the problem." And I don't know if you guys know who Grover Norquist is. He was a tax cutting guru back in the day, but he had a famous quote that said, "I don't want to abolish government. I simply want to reduce it to the size where I can drag it into the bathroom and drown it in the bathtub." So these are very universal ideas about government being bad. But I'm I have two things to say about that. One is that it is just completely based on ideology and not fact. That's number one. And two, it it shows me that people don't understand the underlying purpose of government, and that bothers me a lot. And that's why it's kind of number one on my list. So the purpose of government is to coordinate that people who live in a society. Okay. So I always told you, I told you before that I would always go back to look at nature and how nature handles these things and bring that forward to how humans should handle things. So if we look at your body with your 35 trillion cells, which I've said before, the brain and the neural system, the nervous system, work together. There's like 100 billion neurons that work to keep your body alive. And they do that by keeping every cell alive and keeping the body alive. So that is the underlying purpose of the coordinating system, is to make sure all the cells exist so that they can do their jobs and that they can keep the body alive. Okay, so the equivalent in humans is that our government, which is our coordinating systems, are there to make sure that every person can live their lives and do their thing and make sure that the society can thrive or survive. Okay, so that's the equivalent. That's the parallel we're looking for. So that's great, but how do cells do that? How cells do that, keep the cells and the body alive, is very instructive for us to figure out how successful government should work. So let's look at that. And there's a bunch of stuff that actually the coordinating system does, but we're going to start with the first one because it's very important for how we are doing things today. And that is that the brain and the neural system in a body are protected. They are protected from by bones and tissues, and they're protected so that they can do their job without interference. Okay, so sometimes the brain and the neural system has to do some really difficult things. One, they have to sometimes they'll have to pull resources from another area to fix an injured cell. Sometimes they will have to kill a cell that can't be helped. Sometimes, like if a body is starving, they will have to pull resources from lots of cells in order to keep the body surviving. So the neuron has to do a lot of really difficult things, and they need to not be interfered with by any of the other cells doing their thing. So the equivalent would be, let's say a heart cell decides, if a heart cell had some intention and some ability to think, they'd say, we're going to go ask the brain to give us some really extra good stuff our way, extra good resources our way. And then we'll in turn give the brain some lots of good blood to make good ideas, right? Yeah, it's ludicrous. It's silly. But in fact, that if that happened, the body would be dead. The heart would be nice and healthy, but the rest of the body would suffer in a way and the body would die. But okay, let's now look at our government. So if we worked like a cell in a body, the government would do everything it can to make sure that every single person has all the opportunities they can to thrive in our society, and that they wouldn't prefer or favor one group over the other. That does not happen in our society. In fact, we have been going the other way. We have almost a system of legalized bribery. We have a bunch of heart cells out there trying to manipulate the coordinating system into giving them more resources. Yeah, and these are called wealthy corporations and wealthy individuals. And what happens is when people have so many resources and their goal is to keep getting those resources, they go to the government and say, do this for me. Make a law that benefits me. Make a ruling that allows me to pollute the water or pollute the air so that I make more profits. And I don't really care if people get sick or die. And this is where we are today. And a cell in a body and a brain in a body would never permit this. But we do this. We have a Supreme Court that says corporations are people. And it's not just that it's ludicrous on its face. It's just that it allows corporations to influence the government at a higher rate than individuals can. And it is a system that is moving us towards oligarchy and away from democracy. And without that ability for the government to work for the good of all, then it will not work well for any in the end. So what do we have to do in order to fix this situation? Well, the main thing we have to do is take all the private money out of government and elections. If you take the government out of elections and leadership, then the people who are running for office or the people who are in office only have as their goal what is equivalent to their oath of office, which is that they will follow the Constitution and do what's good for the people. And the only way you can do that is to remove the resources from the system. You make your elections publicly funded, and you outlaw all lobbying and any kind of resource influence with money in the system. Now, that doesn't mean people can't talk to our leaders and talk to our candidates about what they need. Of course they can, because communication is free, but it can't come with resources. And the job of the leaders and of candidates is to promote only the good of the people. Now, one of the things I will say is that the Supreme Court decided that money equals free speech. And again, we're talking completely ludicrous of a concept, because money, free speech is fundamentally equivalent. Everybody has one voice, right? Everybody can speak, and they all can kind of speak the same way. So that speech is relatively equivalent. Right now, that's different with social media and companies and everything else. But individually, if we talk about people, they each have the same capacity to speak. But money accumulated in certain people has a different capacity to speak. If I have $10, I can speak a little. If I have $10 billion, I can speak a lot. And that is equivalent to having some cells have more say in how the body runs than others. That will make a body die. It doesn't work that way. And if we do it that way, it doesn't work well either. And I think that's what we're seeing today, is we have a huge gap in wealth inequality. You know, the last I checked, I think 90% of the people, or 90% of the wealth was owned by 20% of the people. And it's just it's a really imbalanced system. And those people with the money have the ability to influence the government decisions that are made that affect all of us. And that is a situation that will not work. It will not work in the long term. And we can see how it's cracking today. The oligarchs, we really do have an oligarchy in many ways, and that oligarchy is ruling and is overruling our democracy. So that is where I am today on the conventional wisdom that big government is bad, or government is bad. I welcome your comments on this one. And next time we'll talk a little bit more about some other things that how bodies do things to make sure the system works fairly for everybody. So hope to see you then. Thank you so much. Bye.